There's a secret behind Trump and Putin's Alaska meeting that has almost nothing to do with Ukraine.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one.
Here's the bottom line. If this meeting works and America can get along with Russia, then we might finally be our own boss again.
On August 15, 2025, in the stark landscape of Anchorage, Alaska, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin met on a US military base. The world was told this was about finding a path to peace in Ukraine. The scene was set with a red carpet, military flyover, complete with F-35s and B-2 bombers. But after 3 hours, the summit ended not with a ceasefire, but with the American president quietly suggesting that maybe Ukraine should just make a deal. Meanwhile, the Russian leader left without offering a single real concession. So how did we get here? How did a US leader and a Russian autocrat end up having such a seemingly friendly meeting in the middle of a brutal war? To figure out what really happened in Alaska, you can't just look at today. You have to rewind the clock. This isn't a story about just a single summit. It's a long, complicated, and very personal relationship that has baffled experts and shaken the world order for years. At the history of their fantastic relationship, it's really driving this powerful and perplexing connection. The meeting at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson was Putin's first time on Western soil since he launched the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. For years, Putin had been treated like a pariah. In Alaska, he got a warm handshake from Trump on a red carpet, and for many, that image alone was a huge diplomatic win for Moscow. Trump called the meeting extremely productive, insisting great progress had been made. But when it came to actual results, there was nothing. No ceasefire, no deal to end the fighting, and Trump admitted to the press, "We didn't get there," but he said he was optimistic, and his advice for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was blunt: make a deal. Putin, on the other hand, was visibly pleased. He talked about vague agreements and warned Ukraine and its allies not to mess up the so-called diplomatic progress. It was a masterclass in political theater. He gave up nothing. He didn't agree to pause the fighting, and in fact, Russian forces were attacking Ukraine while the two men were still talking. Yet, he walked away with the legitimacy of a presidential summit on American soil, via consequences Trump had once threatened. Back in Russia, the reaction was pure joy. Moscow celebrated that Putin had met with his American counterpart without giving an inch. One source within Russia's foreign policy circle put it plainly: Putin gave Trump nothing, but still got everything he wanted. Trump finally listened to his demands. And those demands have long been clear, with the main one being that Ukraine cedes territory to end the war. Putin left Alaska without softening that stance at all. So the real question is, what brought these two men to this point? So this is a bromance built on praise and power. The story of the Trump-Putin connection didn't start with the presidency. It began years earlier with a mix of business, beauty pageants, and a shared appreciation for a certain kind of strength. Before he was even a candidate, Donald Trump, the real estate mogul, would talk about his ties to the Russian leader, sometimes saying, "I do have a relationship with Putin," and other times, "I met him once." What was consistent, though, was his admiration for Putin's leadership. He saw Putin as a strong, decisive leader, the opposite of how he painted American presidents. In 2015, after Putin called Trump a very brilliant and talented person, Trump was thrilled. He called it a great honor to be so nicely complimented by a man so highly respected within his own country and beyond. This bromance, as the media called it, really took shape during Trump's 2016 presidential run. As US intelligence agencies sounded the alarm about Russian interference in the election, Trump was busy praising Putin. He famously said that Putin had done a really great job of outsmarting our country. For a major presidential candidate, this was unheard of. It sent a clear signal. Trump wasn't going to play by the old foreign policy rules. He saw Putin not as an enemy, but as a potential partner. At the same time, intelligence agencies were flagging numerous contacts between Trump's campaign and Russian officials, laying the groundwork for the investigations that would define his presidency. Once Trump was in the White House, that dynamic between the two leaders became one of the most watched in the world. Their most infamous meeting was the 2018 summit in Helsinki, Finland. After meeting Putin privately, Trump stood next to him at a press conference and sided with the Russian leader's denial of election interference, directly contradicting his own US intelligence agencies. Trump said President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today, adding, "I don't see any reason why it would be Russia." The fallout was swift and came from both sides of the aisle. Critics called it a disaster, but was also a perfectly clear message about how Trump saw the world. For Putin, the summit was a massive strategic win. It put Russia on the same level as the United States, a long-term goal for Moscow. No deals were signed, but Putin didn't need any. The image of the two leaders standing side by side as equals was the real prize. And throughout his term, Trump's view of Russia was shaped by the endless investigations into election interference, which he constantly dismissed as the Russia hoax. He seemed to see Putin as a fellow victim of a phony witch hunt. This personal grievance created a bizarre kind of bond. Trump felt that both he and Putin were being unfairly attacked, which made it tougher to deal with Russia on one hand, but also forged a sense of shared struggle. It helps explain why he was so skeptical of any intelligence that was critical of Russia. So why are these two close? This connection is more than just a bromance. It's built on a complex mix of a shared worldview, strategic goals, and a strange sort of psychological mirroring. First, you have the strongman worldview. Both Trump and Putin project an image of absolute power and fierce national pride. They style themselves as saviors of their nations, battling a corrupt globalist enemy. Trump's America First philosophy, with its open skepticism of alliances like NATO, lines up perfectly with Putin's goal of weakening the West. Putin has always seen NATO as a threat, and Trump calling the alliance obsolete or complaining about other members was music to his ears. Then there's a clear strategic benefit for both of them. For Putin, having a friendly US president is a priceless asset. It eases diplomatic pressure, divides Western allies, and offers a way out of global isolation, as the Alaska summit just showed. Putin, a former KGB agent, is a master of flattering egos and framing their relationship as a partnership of two great men solving the world's problems. And for Trump, the relationship proves his whole theory of foreign policy is right. It shows he can cut personal deals with world leaders without needing the State Department getting in the way. In a way, Putin's Russia offers a model of leadership that appeals to Trump's own instincts, a system built around one powerful leader, where loyalty is everything and the critical press is ignored. And finally, it's just personal. Trump often sees his relationship with Putin through the lens of the Russia hoax. He seems to believe they were both victims of a political smear job. This transforms a geopolitical issue into a personal one. Defending his relationship with Putin became the same as defending himself. The Alaska summit wasn't a conclusion of all of this. It was just the latest chapter. It was a result of a decade-long relationship built on mutual praise, shared goals, and a common desire to shake up the world order. Even though no deal was signed, the meeting itself sent a huge message. It signaled that a future American administration could take a radically different approach to foreign policy, one that values personal handshakes over long-standing alliances. For Ukraine, the meaning is terrifying. The summit gave Putin a stage and a sense of legitimacy without him having to stop his invasion. It gives him every reason to keep the war going, hoping that the political winds in the West will shift in his favor. For NATO, the event is another worrying sign of just how fragile the alliance could be. Trump's actions, from questioning the core principle of collective defense to meeting so warmly with the alliance's main adversary, are designed to create doubt and division. The story of Trump and Putin at its core is really about the changing face of power in the 21st century. It shows how personal feelings and grudges can now rewrite global politics, and how the performance of strength can become a geopolitical weapon. What happened in Alaska has set the stage for a new and deeply uncertain chapter in world affairs, and everyone is waiting to see what comes next.